Hi everyone, and welcome to the spooky Halloween episode of Dystopian Simulation Radio. I'm your host Linz, and you're joining me here tonight at the campfire with a bunch of our listeners. So you guys will actually hear yourselves on this episode. So, what's that noise? What did you guys? What the fuck? What the fuck is that? Oh my god, scared. What the hell?
Oh, hey.
Chris! Oh my god.
Sorry, I went out to get some strawberry milk and I just got lost.
For fucking 2 months, Chris. Like, what the hell? I thought it was literally Bigfoot. I thought I was gonna die or have an erotic encounter. I don't know anymore.
We'll leave that there. 2 months? Oh, now my strawberry milk's gone bad.
How's it going, Chris? What the fuck?
It's going. It's all good. It's all good. How are you, Linz?
Well, that sounded very convincing and mysterious. It's not going good for me. Well, it is, but I feel like shit. And I'm ill. So, But I'm at the campfire because we have a really good episode today. Is there anything you want to say before you sit down here? Can everyone just bunk up so Chris can... Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. Just a Jabba the Hutt-sized seat I need, thank you. Yes. Yep.
Shut up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that you're sick, but, the cold's good for your lungs. And so is campfire smoke?
Yes,
Should be
agree.
fine. All good. Just make sure you sit down, Wind. You'll be absolutely fine.
Okay. Yeah, well, Chris will remain mysterious, I suppose. So, do you know what we'd do? Well, obviously you got the memo somehow, Chris. How did you find out about this DSL meeting? Patreon?
Oh, the owls told me.
They aren't what they seem, you know.
No, I hear that.
All right, well, as I was saying, welcome to the Halloween episode, everyone. Chris has joined us again.
Hello.
After frolicking around being photographed blurrily by people in America, I assume. But yeah, Chris.
Hello, everybody. I'm here. I am. This is me. I promise you. Thank you very much for all of your continued support with everything, and especially those of you who are on our Patreon. So remember, if you do want to show us some love for this silly little podcast that we do, trying to uncover the truth behind various encounters that happen all around the world, then you can head over to Dystopian. No, you can't. You can head over to patreon.com, Dystopian Simulation /Patreon. No, wait. Okay.
Patreon.com/Dystopian Simulation Radio.
I'm a professional.
He's a bit rusty, everyone. Give him a break. Yep, well, and I don't think there's any pictures to go along with this, but there will be like a title card, and you can follow pictures for all our other episodes on Instagram at d.s.radio.
Well, the bonfire's burning bright.
Pumpkin faces in the night.
I remembered, just the other day, it's Halloween. It is. It's All Hallows Eve. And we're here with possibly part 1. Not quite sure yet. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. There may be a part 2.
Yeah. We're definitely here with part 1. Whether there'll be a part 2 depends on how this goes and how long
it's
everything
Loch Ness
runs.
all over again.
Yep. Still waiting on that part 2 of Loch Ness. That's a lot of evidence you're gathering.
Well, I got to be thorough.
Oh, you're draining that loch, aren't you?
That sounds so bad when you say it. Oh, Christ. Back into the old habits, eh?
Who's up first? Who we're going to hear from?
All right, well, looking directly opposite me, I see you, Michael Cunliffe. Michael's got a story for us today, and it has a title that you might appreciate, Chris.
Oh, The Wrestlers. Okay, interesting. Well, Michael, why don't you take it away?
Good evening, Linz and Chris. I heard that you were looking for some people to gather around a fire and tell you some Halloween stories. Fortunately for you, I happen to have a true one. And because you love the supernatural, you're doubly lucky, because this is full of ghosts and ghouls and goblins, and they say, even Old Nick, the devil himself. Now, I studied art down in Cornwall, and being a student, what I quite liked to do was go out for a beer every now and then. And it happens that this was a story that takes place on Halloween because I was supposed to be going out, but I left a little earlier than others. And so I nipped into a little pub called the Five Stars. It's not a place I used to drink a lot, but there wasn't much of a queue, and it seemed like a comfortable place to wait for an hour or so. I get in there, and it's dead quiet. There's maybe a couple of people drinking in the corner, and there's an old boy right at the bar, waiting for a pint. And he's saying something really, really strange. He said, "Mi vengan kawas ko ma pleg. Yigista." And, well, I'm a pretty cocky young kid, so I say to the barman, "What's that old boy going on about?" And the barman says, he's been around here a long time. That's John. He's speaking Canoic. It's the Cornish language. He knows some of the really old stories. If you buy him a pint, he might tell you one. Well, here I am, bored, young, waiting for my mates to come out, and I think, hey, a true Cornish story, this should be good. So I buy the man a pint. Turns out he speaks English, which is good, because I don't speak much Cornish. And he says to me, "You want to hear a story? You want to hear a true story? I'll tell you one." So, this is a story that goes back to the 1800s. In the town of St. Just, there were two young mining lads named Jackie and Jan. And they were poor. They were so poor that they didn't even have belts to hold up their trousers. Just had kind of hairy bits of string tied around them. And then that's how people lived back then. The other thing that Jackie and Jan had to contend with was the fact that St. Just back then was a dry town. If you wanted a drink, you had to walk 2 hours to the nearby village of Morva to get a pint. Which they did on the regular of a Friday night. This particular story concerns Halloween. And it's a time when ghosts, ghouls and goblins, and even old Nick himself, was said to be wandering around the dark places of Cornwall. So Jackie and Jan said to their mother, "Hey, we're going out for a drink. It's Friday night. We won't be back late." And their mother said to them, she said, "Jackie, Jan, I know you're good lads, but tonight is Halloween. And out in the dark places there are ghosts and ghouls and goblins and even old Nick himself. So you see you are back before midnight. And whatever you do, make sure you stay on the roads." So, being good Christian Cornish lads, they walked the roads over to Morva and they got themselves a drink. Or two. And because it was Halloween, people in the bar were telling stories and singing songs of ghosts and ghouls and goblins and even old Nick himself, and they had a great time. That is, until they heard the bell of the nearby church tower striking 11 o'clock. "Oh no," said Jackie. "What are we going to do? We'll be late." "Come on," said Jan. "There's a shortcut we can take." Now, as I say, it's 2 hours taking the King's roads, such as they were, back to the town of St. Just. But you could cut across the moors and save yourself a lot of time. Now, you might have noticed their mother told them not to do that, but I don't know if you've ever met young lads after a few pints, but they decided there was only one thing to do. They'd have to risk it. So Jackie and Jan walked along the moonlit path, hurrying as best they could to get home before that fated hour of midnight. Now, as they were walking, they heard a sound behind them, the beating of horses' hooves. As the sound grew louder and closer, Jackie and Jan saw that there was a huge horse with a black rider atop it, cannoning down the path at them at breakneck speed. He didn't stop, and his glowing red eyes looked like fire in that dim night. And when he nearly knocked them off of their feet, Jackie couldn't hold his tongue. "Whoa there," he said. "Where do you think you're going at this time of night? You nearly knocked us down." And the rider pulled his horse to a stop. He turned and looked at them with eyes like glowing coals. And when he spoke, his voice was ghastly and beautiful at the same time. "I'm off to see the wrestlers at Carncanidjack," he said. "Why don't you join me?" Well, as I say, Jackie and Jan are poor mining lads. They have nothing to hold up their trousers but a bit of hairy string. Their pleasures in life were few and far between, but if there was one thing they loved more than a drink, it was wrestling. And suddenly it seemed like the most natural thing in the world to join this black rider and head up to see the wrestlers. So they agreed. The rider swung them up onto the back of his huge horse and cantered away with them down the dark roads, up the dark hills, until finally they started to hear sounds. Not the sounds they expected of cheers and groans, but the sounds of thunder, sounds like stones breaking. And up on the top of the hill at Carncanidjack, they saw, outlined in fire, 2 giant figures. As they drew closer, they realised that the wrestlers were not men, but they were indeed giants, and every move that they made, every throw, every fall, was like the sound of thunder smashing against the side of the hill. They saw these wrestlers first, but as they drew close and got ready to take their place in the audience, they realised that it was not poor mining lads stood around watching this incredible match. But no, it was ghosts and ghouls and goblins, and on a huge black throne, old Nick himself. A strange crowd, to be sure, but with their attention focused entirely on the Titan wrestlers, Jackie and Jan slipped amongst them. Oh, what a match! What an incredible sight! The 2 titanic adversaries were fighting for their very lives, it seemed. Each hold looked as though it might break bone. Each throw made the ground shake beneath their feet, and soon Jackie and Jan were cheering along with all of the ghosts and ghouls and goblins and even old Nick himself, until finally one giant bested the other and smashed his opponent's head against the ground, and he lay still in a pool of blood. "He's not moving," whispered Jan. "We need to do something." Well, the ghosts and the ghouls and the goblins certainly weren't going to. And it was Jackie who ran out to the fallen giant's side to see what he could do. Well, as I've mentioned, Jackie and Jan were poor mining lads. They only had hairy bits of string holding up their trousers, and they certainly weren't doctors. Jackie had no idea what to do with this still, incredible figure lying on the ground, so he did the only thing he could think of. He closed his eyes and started to speak. "Our Father, who art in heaven..." "Jackie," said Jan. "Shh. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom..." "Jackie," said Jan again, tapping him on the shoulder. And he looked up to see all of the ghosts and ghouls and goblins staring at him. He saw old Nick stand up from his black throne, saw him point one cruel taloned finger at them, saw him open his mouth, and did not stick around to hear what he said. The 2 lads ran for their lives, as though their very souls were dependent on getting away, which perhaps they were. They hurtled down the side of the hill. They hurtled across the dark and forbidding moors, with every ghost, ghoul and goblin running behind them at a fearsome pace. Their lungs burning, their hearts pounding in their chest, they ran as fast as they could, stumbling over stones, feeling the muddy ground move beneath their feet, and behind them they could hear the horde of ghosts, ghouls, goblins, and even old Nick himself chasing them. And as they tried harder and harder to run, they felt them getting closer. They were surely done for. They did not know how they would get away, but then Jan remembered the old stories that no evil could cross running water. If they could just make it to the bridge, they would be safe. And so, with the sounds of those creatures so hot on their heels that they thought they could be caught at any moment, they saw the bridge. One last burst of speed was what they needed. But just as they reached the edge of the bridge, the biggest, nastiest goblin of them all reached out with his gnarled hands and caught them both by the trousers. But Jackie and Jan were just poor mining lads. Their trousers were held up by pieces of hairy string, which snapped and left them free to run over the bridge to safety, with the ghosts, ghouls and goblins howling in fury, clutching nothing but their trousers. And this is the story that they told their mother when they got home at 3 a.m, drunk, covered in mud, and missing their trousers.
Well, that took a twist that I wasn't expecting.
I was going to say, that is, I don't know how much a pint was in Cornwall at this time, but that's probably the best £2 Michael has ever spent getting that story from the old
Pounds? When did Michael go to university, arts college? Was it 1964?
Some pubs, though, they had pints for like £2. You can still find them. I think the cheapest one I've seen is £2.50. Not a good pint, but
Linz,
a pint.
Linz, neither Michael or myself are going in a Wetherspoons, okay?
It wasn't. It's not. I'm not going to dox myself, but I've seen it on a sign.
Wow, well, that was an interesting little story. That I was taken aback by the Cornish at the beginning. I don't think I've ever heard it spoken so eloquently, or at all. Being northern.
I've never heard it. Actually,
northern boy.
Yeah, I've never heard it. I was like, oh shit! I didn't know they had their own language.
Yeah,
I guess Wales does, so why not?
Well, I mean, it's there's like a whole like Cornish independence movement.
Yeah, but like you said, I've never heard it. I've never heard it spoken. That's crazy. Actually, I think we could just donate the podcast to Michael with that storytelling level.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, we've been outclassed here.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah,
I was like, come on, fucking run. The end of the story is so funny though.
I've never heard the words hairy string said so eloquently, repeatedly.
When he said it the first time, I was like, love it. And it just kept coming up again and again. I knew it was important. Hairy string.
Wow.
Imagine Michael telling you bedtime stories.
Be terrifying.
Actually, I told him, he's narrated something else before. And I've heard like a snippet of it. I think it's a classic story. Is it Edgar Allan Poe? It was maybe. Anyway, I was saying that because he's an artist, he can do all types of art, like paintings, ceramics, everything. I was like, they should bring back Art Attack, but with you. And instead of the head, you remember the head from Art Attack?
Yes, I remember the head.
Instead of that, just like some like wobbly raven statue. And then Michael can sit in like an Edgar Allan Poe kind of office room and do like spooky crafts and tell stories. It would be so good.
Well, I for one, would support that.
Oh, Art Attack. Please tell me Neil Buchanan's alive still.
I think
he still wears a red jumper.
Yeah, I think he is. He's got a heavy metal band, I believe.
Fuck off.
Hold on.
If that's true, I swear to God.
So yes, he has a heavy metal band called Marseille.
You are lying.
I'm not. Hold on. Let me
send me. How do you know that? Like, where did you see that?
How do you not know it?
I just don't. Oh my God, that's amazing. But how old is he now?
He's up there, like.
He's got to be.
I don't think that they're active anymore.
The fact that he was in one has just blown my mind. This can't be real.
Check it out. Look at that stank face.
That cannot be real.
Even AI can't generate this quickly.
Chris, I'm actually crying a bit. That must have been a while ago.
There's nothing more heavy metal than PVA glue.
There's not. They should have been called that, PVA glue.
Yeah. No,
okay,
it's
there
not
is going to
madness.
be
It's Marseille.
They're still going.
It is one step beyond, though.
Holy shit, that's made my night.
Okay, so let's see who's up next. We've got
I want to preface this by saying, Ely, that you said, well, she was like, I want to send one in, but my English isn't that good and I have an accent and she's German. So you know what it means when a German person says their English isn't very good.
Oh, it's
it
perfect.
Means their English is fucking fantastic. Let's check it out.
Happy Halloween. Dear Linz and Chris and Dystopian Simulation Radio listeners. So, the story from my hometown Nuremberg in the northern part of Bavaria, Germany, called Franconia, is about a medieval UFO sighting. Yes, you heard that right. A medieval mass UFO sighting and even a battle in the sky and quite some hysteria, I guess. Nuremberg is not only famous for bratwurst, gingerbread, and the Nuremberg trials. We also had this occurrence in 1561 that was described as a sighting of celestial phenomena or unidentified flying objects. There's also an old drawing that was published with a news article of how it apparently looked that Linz and Chris may provide on their Instagram page, where you can see what the citizens of Nuremberg saw in the sky on that special day in April 1561. According to the broadsheet, around dawn on the 15th of April 1561, many men and women of Nuremberg saw what the broadsheet describes as an aerial battle out of the sun, followed by the appearance of a large black triangular object and exhausted combatant spheres falling to earth in clouds of smoke. The broadsheet claims that witnesses observed hundreds of spheres, cylinders, and other odd-shaped objects that moved erratically overhead. The woodcut illustration depicts objects of various shapes, including crosses with or without spheres in the arms, small spheres, two large crescents, a black spear, and cylindrical objects from which several small spheres emerged and darted around the sky at dawn. You can read the whole translated text on the internet. It's too long to read it here. So no one knows to this day what this was. Some say it was UFOs. Military experts say it was cannons and cannonballs. Every expert sees it as something from their field. Like the math teacher would see math in everything, and the sports teacher saw always sports everywhere. So there's no logical explanation to it, of course. It's far too long. Even for us today in 2025, after watching Star Wars and being used to CGI, a smoke-filled battle in the sky between spheres, crosses, and cylinders would be crazy. There have also been similar sightings in Basel, Switzerland, and Stralsund, also Germany, around that time. Have you heard of them? Even I haven't heard of that occurrence until a few years ago. Totally crazy. So, happy Halloween again to you all. Eily.
I've never heard of this. Have you heard of mysterious crosses and balls? Well, we've heard of balls.
We all know balls.
We all know balls. Have you heard of anything to do with cylinders and crosses and smoke-filled balls in the air?
Well, when I was in Stockholm, Sweden, I went to like this big church there, and there was a painting, and it was I was told like, oh, it's the UFO painting, but it didn't really look like a UFO. But funnily enough, like that's what everybody believes this painting is. And I think it was called the Sundog painting, something like that. And a sundog is apparently, I don't know exactly, I could look it up, but I can't be bothered. But I think it's like sunlight refracting through ice crystals or frost crystals in the sky or something. And it creates these like halos. So it looks like there's multiple suns or like these big halos around. But they're in a few medieval paintings. But this German one, I hadn't heard of. But the picture, if I've just looked it up and it's like, just like Eiley described, all sorts of shapes in the sky. So I don't think you could really explain that away as sundogs. But that's crazy. I love stuff like that. You get a lot of the whole like biblical paintings with like little, what people think are UFOs or whatever. But this one, people apparently reported like fighting in the sky.
Yeah, and like cannonballs, like you've got to think. I don't know. They're not quiet things, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that is, you certainly like can't compare the sound of a cannonball roaring through the air with like ice defrosting.
In this Nuremberg one, they're seeing like things, shapes colliding and like almost biting and stuff. Apparently, there's this big like translated text all about it that you can read in English as well. I think it could be an episode in itself, but I definitely haven't heard of that one. But I have seen one of those kind of paintings in real life, and they are so interesting.
Well, thank you so much, Eiley, and your English absolutely perfect. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Okay, so next, who are you? OSM?
OSM? Come on. The Ordained Sinister Minister.
Oh, shit.
How could you forget? That's your nickname for him.
Didn't realize. Sorry, Sinister. I did not realize that you are now going by your initials, like RVD.
You're like, who's awesome?
I was like, OSM? Okay. Anyway, take it away, Reverend.
Hey, Linz. Ordained Sinister Minister, or OSM.
And me.
I promised you an upbeat ghost story. I had moved into a new condominium in St. Paul, and it was an old factory that had been converted, built in 1903, I believe. And I'd been there for, a couple months. And I'd noticed, little things like if you reach for a pencil occasionally, it would just sort of like roll away just ever so slightly. Like there was an extra breeze from your hand or something. And I didn't sense anything evil. It was just, I was sharing the space with somebody. Or somebody's, who knows. I didn't pursue it. I just accepted that they were there. Occasionally when I was using voice to text, I'd get some extra messages in there like, hi, Roger. So it didn't seem evil, didn't seem anything bad. But it was present. Nothing big. But then it was Christmas party season had started, and my girlfriend was coming to pick me up, and so I was ironing some clothes, or I'd done laundry, and I was piling the clothes up as I did laundry. And at the same time, of course, there was the flurry of texts, what should I wear, what should we bring, when should I show up, I'll be at this door, or wait, no, I changed my mind, that door. So I was constantly grabbing the phone while I was folding laundry and putting it away. Time came, it was about time for her to show up, and I realized I hadn't gotten any messages or anything like that recently. Oh, and you should know that it annoys me to have my phone dinging all the time and buzzing all the time. So I don't have vibration or sound on for the phone. I couldn't find my phone, and I knew I needed it, and I was frantically looking for it. She came up, helped me look. We looked forever. We ended up just going to the party. And when I came home later that night, I was just trying to figure out where the phone was. And I just asked the spirits. I said, hey, could you give me a hand and show me where my phone is? Or give me a sign where it is, like make a noise by it? I kid you not. I felt a hand on the small of my back. A gentle hand that just sort of guided me like a dancer. Like if you're leading in a dance. guided me over to a pile of laundry on a chair. And I started lifting up the pieces, and about 3 shirts down, there was my phone. So, yeah, and this took place, I believe it was like 2012 or 2013. If Find My iPhone was available, I wasn't aware of it or how to use it. So there you go, an upbeat, and I guess even holiday-themed ghost story. Let me hear you laugh a few times in this episode, Linz. It's like music. Talk to you later. Bye.
Oh, okay.
Aww,
I like
that's so
that.
cute.
Reminds me of a story I once heard about a friendly ghost.
Casper?
No, my name's Chris. But yes, thank you very much for that. That nice uplifting story. It's nice to hear. I would be very always open to hearing about nice, courteous ghosts.
You don't hear about many of them, though, right?
No.
It's normally like some horrible, scary thing. But I was thinking about this the other week because I had to do a presentation on what I would do if I was invisible for a day. And my last point was I would haunt people for fun. And then I was like, maybe everyone who gets the chance to become a ghost is just like, I'm not going to be friendly. I am just going to fuck with people for pure entertainment. Because my first instinct as a ghost was not to be nice. It was to be like haunt people I don't like. So I suppose one that helps you find your phone is actually really sweet. Maybe we should all aspire to be the ghost that helps people find their phone.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of surplus to requirements now that Find My iPhone is a thing. But I'm sure there's other uses, like things that, don't have GPS tracking in them that you lose all the time.
Could put an AirTag, though, couldn't you?
You could do.
Not on everything.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
What would you do if you were a ghost, Chris? Would you be helpful or you'd just fuck with people, wouldn't you?
100%.
Yeah, see? We're just terrible people,
100%.
alive and dead.
But it would be sort of like slightly comical things. Like nothing, nothing to hurt people, just sort of like,
giving them wedgies.
Yeah, or like, putting a pail of water just next to the bed so that when they get out of bed, their feet go in the water.
Cling film over the toilet.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
All right, who we got next?
Next, over to you, Wes. I hear you've got a good story for us about a family ghost.
So my mother's from Honduras, and we used to go there every summer and stay there for a month. And I have an aunt who loves to scare me. So anytime I'd turn a corner, she would be there. She would startle me, and I would scream, and whatever. I was a kid, all right? So she got a lot of fun out of doing that to me. So one day I was in her room listening to Duel of Fates all the way up and reading comic books, as I do. And I looked up at the speaker where it was, but on the wall I saw a shadow of, hands, kind of like Nosferatu, kind of claw hands coming toward me, moving toward me while I was in the bed. And I thought to myself, okay, great, I've caught my aunt in the act. I'm going to scare her for a change. So I put the comic book down, I turned to the side, and I screamed at her, and there was nobody there. I looked under the bed, there was nobody there. I checked in the closet, I checked in the bathroom, there was nobody in the room. And my aunt's room is on the second floor, so there's no way she could have leaped over me while I was on the bed and jumped out seamlessly through the window. Also, the door was shut, and she has a very thick wooden door that when the wind pushes it, it slams. And it would be so loud that my abuela used to get really mad when that door would slam. So there's no way that she secretly ran out of the room, okay? So I was confused. I left. I walked outside, and my abuela was having guests over. So there's a bunch of ladies out on the back patio, and I walked up to my aunt, and I was confused, and I said, how did you do that? And she said, how did I do what? And I said, how, you know what you did. How did you do that? And she wouldn't tell me. Because she had no idea what I was talking about. And finally, my abuela, she got upset because I was disrupting the party. And she asked me, Whaley, what are you talking about? And I said, so I told her, I saw this on the wall, the shadow. You walked over to me, and then you weren't in the room. How did you do that? And they all exchanged glances, and they said the name Chavela. So Chavela apparently was my family's ghost. They lived in a different house before, and she would appear as a white apparition. And she played with my oldest cousin. One day, all the ladies were hanging out, and they kept hearing my oldest cousin playing with somebody. and they came over and they said, "Who are you playing with?" And she said, "The lady in white." And they had all seen the lady in white, so they knew that she was actually doing this. But then they moved houses, and ever since they've moved houses, Chavela appears as a black apparition, more of like a shadow. And I've even been in the house, out in the back patio, when we've had guests over that have come out and said, "Who's that lady in black in the hallway? I saw some lady in a black dress." Or it was always a similar description of a lady in black, a shadow, somebody in black, and she had a hallway where she would haunt. But yeah, and that is the story of Chavela, my family ghost. Thank you for letting me share.
Chavela. Wes, you'll understand if I said Chavito. That's what I'd hope it would have been called. But Chavela, that's absolutely fine. Interesting that it changed colour.
You know what? I'm sitting in the dark, right? Because I wanted to get in the mood for the spooky stories. I mean, of course I am. We're sitting around a campfire, but I actually got a bit creeped out then. I don't know. It's just the describing the woman in white and then changing to the woman in black. And who's that woman in black? Oh, I hate it. It's so I love the story, but it's actually made me feel a bit scared. I started looking behind me. Such a pussy.
Yeah, it's there's always that moment like a horror movie when somebody's like, "Daddy, who's that woman in white?"
And it gets you every time. It's something you hear again and again, and it's something that people report seeing again and again. Lady in white, lady in black, blah blah blah. But
Lady in red.
Why did you sound like an old man alone at an office party?
Because the only person who would be singing that song.
Oh, it's been a while since you've sang.
I'm not going to do the obvious joke.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I didn't even realise you said that. That's really creeped me out, honestly. I don't know why that got to me.
Good job, Wes.
It does not get to you when you hear that kind of stuff.
It does. It's eerie because it's very familiar. Because home is where you feel safe, right? It's interesting that Wes is sort of saying that their family ghost. So that's kind of nice. It's like, hey, we've adopted this family ghost. It doesn't seem to be hurting anybody too much. The odd slam door, but yeah, it's that insidious nature. It's,
if you think about it, right? It's not like it's described in a horrible way. It's just described as a woman wearing a dress. But it's the idea of someone in your house that shouldn't be there, or you don't expect to be there, and then they're just suddenly there. Why is that freaking me out? It's making me scared. It's so simple, yet so effective. That's why it's in every horror movie ever, basically. Okay, I need a palate cleanser.
Palate cleanser.
I'm scared.
Who's next?
So next we have my mate Dave with a very short story.
All right, your mate Dave.
I was staying in an old hotel once, and I got woke up by what I thought was one of my dogs pressing the cold, wet nose on my face. So I just kind of turned over, and then I kind of drifted back off to sleep, and then woke up again, kind of with a start, remembering I wasn't at home. So that was pretty weird. Yeah, that's probably about the extent of my ghost story experience.
Well, a cold, wet nose in the face will do that to you.
Especially when you're not at home and your dog's on there.
No.
Do you know what it reminds me of? That story. I don't know where this story's from, or if it's just an urban legend, but you know the one about, it's an old lady and she's blind or something, and she's in bed, and every night she has a small dog, and every night when her hand hangs over the bed, the dog licks her hand. Have you heard that one?
No.
Okay, so I don't remember it exactly, but it's something every night she lays there, hand hangs over, dog licks the hand, and that's it, right? So one night she's laying there, dog licks the hand, and then the next morning she wakes up and the dog has been killed and her house has been burgled, and it's meant to be the burglar was licking her hand or something like that, which I really hate it.
Okay.
Have you never heard that?
No, but there's 100 variations on that similar sort of thing.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, very well.
Did that get you, or did that just make you?
No, well, yeah. The idea of anyone licking your hand unless invited is kind of weird, isn't it?
So who was pushing their cold, wet nose up against my mate Dave?
There's many options.
It's so scary. The B&B owner, imagine. Oh,
Well,
no. I always get scared about that too, you know, when you stay in an Airbnb or a hotel and you're like about to go to sleep and you think, there's probably loads of sets of keys to this place and there's probably loads of like Norman Bates spy holes and shit. Like, I don't know. It's so scary.
Oh, I was just going to make a joke. I was going to say that there was a famous story about a wrestling promoter that down in, I think, Puerto Rico, who, let's just say, ladies weren't his thing. And there were a wrestler that didn't know this and was staying there, staying at his house because he was doing a show, and just woke up to him like furiously masturbating over him.
Ooh.
And I was just like, maybe it wasn't a cold, wet nose.
I'm leaving that in.
That's
terrible.
Oh.
It's all right if you don't remember it 100% accurately. I just butchered that urban legend about the dog, but I'm sure people know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, so here you go. So this is from a very famous... You can't put this in. You really can't. All right, cut this bit out. But this is from a very famous list of possible absolute rubbish that was collated together of wrestling rumors. So, not saying that this is true, but number 64. Remember when David Flair quit IWA Puerto Rico due to unfit living conditions, and everyone ragged on him when they found out that IWA had put him up in a nice house? Well, that house belonged to Victor Quinones. I shouldn't have to say any more, but I will. David was sleeping one night and was woken up by Quinones, standing over him, about to blow a load on his face. David quit the next day.
And he's also called David. Oh, that's awful. But obviously complete hearsay. Well, allegedly.
Rumor and innuendo. Okay, so...
Chris, just bringing class to the episode.
So next up, Jared.
Hey, Chris and Linz, it's Jared. So Linz let me know that for the Halloween episode, you wanted to have like some campfire stories in kind of a montage situation. So I thought I would oblige. I don't have a lot, nothing's spectacular, but got two quick stories. One was my dad, when he was about 10 years old, was driving with his family back from the movies at late at night, and he was about 10 years old, so that would make him. It was about 1951, and this is in North Dakota, in the middle of nowhere, driving home. They had like a 30-minute drive home from the movie theater. Everybody's passed out in the backseat. His sisters are back there, and he's sitting in the middle, and he's a little tired himself, but he looks up. Kind of up and back, out the back window. And, yes, honey, this is a scary story. That's Chloe. And he sees what he thinks is the moon, this bright thing, but it was moving. And then he realized, no, the moon's over on the other side of where we're coming from, and this is going right over us. He said it was about the size of a quarter, and he saw the underside of what he thought was some sort of craft that zoomed from left to right or right to left. Not sure. Didn't get that part of the story. But, yeah, I thought that was interesting. He's like, yeah, I'll never forget that. Yeah. But my story involves, we were in I was in college, and it was the last year that I was with my friends in this house, but apparently this house was a little noisy. I had a bedroom upstairs, and one of my roommates was sitting downstairs watching TV. Thought he heard me open my bedroom door, walk to the bathroom, and then walk back and close the door. And then 5 minutes later, I come through the front door. And he was like, weren't you just up in your room? I'm like, I've been gone all morning. I don't know what you're talking about. So he said, huh. Another time, we thought we saw a friend of ours, we were coming back late one night, and my friend's father was driving us back from an event, and in our window, he said, "Oh, I think I see our friend Brian there on the landing in the window." I'm like, "Great," and nobody was home when we went through the door. So, but he says, "I swear I saw somebody standing in that window." Also, the very last time that I had experienced this personally, in that same house, in my bedroom, before the alarm went off one morning, in a couple of weeks before we had to move out, my friend and I, my roommate and I, were gonna go clean up the yard a little bit, and right before my alarm goes off, the door to my bedroom was opened up slightly. I swear there was a figure on the other side, and then evenly closed. I thought, my roommate's checking in on me because he must already be awake. My alarm goes off. I stop it, go downstairs to my roommate. He was already fast asleep. I woke him up and I said, "Did you just check in on me?" And he's like, "No, you just woke me up." So that is that. That freaked us out for a little bit. The night that we all kind of got together and talked about it was, whoa. This house was like an older house, probably built in the 1920s. There's something weird about that. So anyway, those are a couple of stories you can use if you so choose for your montage. Happy spooky Halloween!
I mean, the scariest part of that is obviously the purring that was coming through.
Oh, that really cheered me up. Thank God.
So yeah, spooky stories. What did you think, Linz?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind was not like, oh, that's scary, it could be a ghost. It reminded me of, remember that news story about, I think it was a couple, and they lived in an apartment in New York or somewhere like that, and things were going missing from the fridge now and again. So they installed these like cameras, and there was some woman like living in a tiny sort of, what would you call it? Like above the door, there was like some space where you could store stuff, like a storage space. And there had been a woman living up there.
Oh, yes.
And she'd come down in the night and just like eat their food and drink stuff. And it was horrible. And like that was my first thought. Like, did you check all of your storage spaces? Like, what if that was an actual person just staring at Jared lovingly in his sleep? Did you ever think about that, Jared?
Did you?
What did you think about it, Chris?
Yeah, but it's always creepy when you're like, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we stayed somewhere, like it was basically this house that we're staying in down in London. Went down there for like a mini like break or whatever, and it was someone my mum knew, and I was in this like guest room, and the door was left like slightly ajar to the room, and like I distinctly remember seeing like faces in funky wallpaper outside. I remember that. So it's weird when you're in an environment that you're not that familiar with. It's like you're kind of hypersensitive to everything, whereas you just kind of look past a lot of things when you've been somewhere for a long time.
Yeah, especially when you're just like staring into the darkness. Like your eyes start to play like weird tricks on you, right? Like, I don't know, I feel like your brain starts making like patterns or something. And the most common one is probably a face. Because when I was a kid, I would just used to lay there and stare out when I couldn't sleep. And I would see like kind of similar things, just like, like the classic one, a pile of clothes on a chair in a room with the lights off. That is fucking terrifying. Really terrifying.
Terrifying.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. Just like a weird leftover instinct or something.
I guess
to like
so.
Be paranoid about whatever's lurking in the darkness. The scariest thing is the unknown, though. That's what they say. It could be true.
Well, from one spooky thing on to the next spooky story.
Yep, now we're going over to Scandinavia and we're going to reunite with Robin. Long-time DSR listeners will remember him from the Gösta Karlsson episode, where he shared his alien encounter story.
Yes.
Yeah, so this guy's been through it. All right, well, let's go
Take
over
it away,
to
Robin.
Okay, so this was around 2004, 2005, I think. And I was at the time living with my dad in his apartment. And we were coming home with the subway going from Stockholm to, this is in southern Stockholm, Mälarhöjden, Bredäng. We had hopped off the subway and were walking home on Mälarhöjdsvägen. And we were walking, there's this little hill that, so you have to walk up it and then it goes down behind the little hilltop. And there's a road that joins this main road that also goes up this hill. And as we were coming up to this hilltop, we saw an old school looking bike coming from the other road and crossing our road and turning into the same direction where we were walking. And the thing was that we both looked at the bike and the pedals were pedaling and the bike was just going and making a perfect turn into this road we were on. But nobody was on the bike. And the thing was that it came up from an upward slope. So we were thinking maybe someone pushed it, but you can't really push. Or I don't know how they would have done that. And it also came across the road and then disappeared while pedaling like someone was on it. So we looked at it and we didn't say anything. We just looked at it. And then we started listening for like a crash or something to happen. Because obviously, no one was on the bike. But the crash never came and the bike, it had disappeared on the other side of the hill. And bear in mind, this road is completely enclosed in like bushes and fences. It's a straight road, so once on the hilltop, you can see for probably at least 100 meters or even more, maybe 200. So we just waited. We didn't hear any crash or anything, and we looked at each other and we were like, "Did you see that?" And they're like, "Yeah, the bike, it just came up there, and then, the pedals were moving, but there was no one on it." So we kind of hurried up to the top to see where it had gone, but it was just completely disappeared. There were no traces of the bike. There was only one place where it could have disappeared, but there was a car there and there was also like a gravel parking space and a very slim, narrow path where it could have potentially gone, between the car and the shrubbery, I guess. Yeah, we just couldn't find the bike. It was nowhere. It just vanished into thin air, and there were nowhere for it to be either. So, but I don't know what that was. Yeah, that's my scary story. Never understood what was going on there. I must have been a ghost, but this was in the middle of the day also. So
wow, ghost bike,
ghost biker. That's a cool one.
Yeah, it just makes it kind of. It's scary, but it's also funny because it's like a pedal bike.
Yeah. Like that in the middle of the day is just completely bizarre. Like if you imagine it as a movie, right? At nighttime, if you were alone and there was this bike going uphill with no one on it and it was like creak, 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 like that's scary. But the middle of the day, just going. It's a very Swedish ghost, isn't it? He's on a bicycle.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose not all ghosts can move at like the speed of light. Some of them need transportation to get around. So why not a bike?
Yeah, but that's like such
Very
a unique
eco-friendly.
story. It makes me think like maybe there was an accident or something, because he said it was an old school bike. So if you want to be all paranormal about it, you could be like, maybe there's an accident like 50 years ago and this ghost doesn't know and he's just like going on his merry way.
Yeah.
It's kind of cute.
Yeah, what an odd little story.
Right? It's so unique.
The fact that it's the middle of the day makes it even odder.
And it like goes up a hill comes down, does a perfect turn into the other road, and then just disappears.
Should have popped a
Phantom bite.
wheelie.
Yeah, imagine.
Do an ollie. Do a kickflip. I'm trying to think. Bunny hop. That's one. That's the one, isn't it? For
Trying to be
bikes?
down with the kids, Chris.
Like, can I just say, by the way, like my son, he's like in his era, he's just like, right, I'm just gonna go as fast as possible on this, or I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna jump off this, whatever. And my go-to, like when he does something, like when he tries to pull a trick on his bike or whatever, I'm like, all right, Tony Hawk, even though I know it should be all right, Dave Mirror, but who the fuck cares about that? It was all right, Tony Hawk, and then I'm like, man, I'm so old. I think that's relevant. I actually think that is relevant. Tony Hawk is he 60 now?
I don't know, actually. He's getting up there. One of my friends
He
in
is
Stockholm.
57.
Oh my God. One
He
of my
looks
friends in
great.
Stockholm did a documentary on him. I think it's called...
Still relevant.
It's something about Superman. That's in the title anyway. Becoming Superman? Something like that. But yeah, he's a director and he did a documentary on him. But yeah, Tony Hawk is really getting up there. Isn't his son married to
Kurt Cobain's daughter.
Yeah. Oh, that just had to happen, didn't it?
Yeah. Just wait. It'll be like, 15 years time and someone will be shredding on a skateboard and it'll be like, that's the...
No, I was going to say, like, I've seen a lot of like emo looks coming back. Which is crazy. I never thought I'd see that. I never thought that would make a return. Yeah.
Emo, but there's also a lot of like love for like, and I'm enjoying this. There's a lot of love for like 2000s, like, how can I say? What's the word? What's the term I'm looking for?
Subculture?
Yeah, I guess so. Like loads of like people, like kids are like, oh my God, have you heard of his band Linkin Park? Or what's this Papa Roach all about? Like,
new metal. Yeah, there's new metal love. Yeah, new metal's
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
Limp
it is.
Bizkit.
Just one of those days.
Honestly, they've made a comeback. I never thought it would happen.
Hey, stranger things have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Pip, our final guest, is going to tell us about a very strange thing as well.
When I was in my sort of like mid-20s, I was going out for my birthday. My birthday is on October 28th, so just a couple of days before Halloween. So I always spend my birthday celebrating Halloween. And me and a group of friends and my little brother, because he's always with me, my little mini me, we went out to Edinburgh for my birthday to do one of the ghost walks. Now, Edinburgh is amazing for ghost walks because it's one of the like most haunted cities in the world, right? Like, whether you believe in it or not, almost everybody has spooky experiences in Edinburgh, especially in October, right? And we went on this, I can't remember the specific one we went on, but it took us through the vaults, like the underground vaults, and it was really creepy, right? And I can remember because our guide found out it was my birthday that day, he decided that he was going to make me walk at the front of the group constantly. Every time we went into a spooky room or whatever, he made me go first because it was my birthday. And he was like, none of the ghosts will kill you on your birthday. I'm like, oh, thank you very much. So we go through the vaults and everything, and a couple of spooky things happened in there, like the usual sort of, oh my God, there's noises behind me, there's skittering behind me and stuff like that, like cold spots, and it was really cool, right? Really, really spooky. Absolutely loved it. And the tour ended with us walking through Greyfriars Kirkyard. If you don't know the story of Greyfriars Bobby, then I think you should look it up because it's a beautiful story. It makes me cry. But within the kirkyard is the Covenanters prison, which back hundreds of years ago, there was an outdoor prison in that area, and it was for like poor folk, kinda, right? So it was like if you couldn't pay, you got thrown in there. And I remember we were told this story about this tree outside of the prison. And apparently it's where they used to, like, see how if you were getting put into this prison and you had a small child or whatever, and you didn't have anybody that could care for that child, your child would either just be thrown on the streets or they would just, like, hang them from the tree. And I thought that was really, really fucking morbid. And I can remember we were standing under this tree and my little brother started getting quite, he was like, I really don't feel good. He's like, I don't know if it's just because that's a horrible, horrible story, but this tree is giving me the creeps. And we were like, well, yeah. So we go through, we're doing the tour, like the last of the tour through this graveyard, this part that used to be the prison. And we went into Bloody Mackenzie's mausoleum. If you haven't done, I don't think you've done a story on Bloody Mackenzie. If you do, you should probably have a wee look into Bloody Mackenzie, because it's Bloody Mackenzie's tomb is one of the most haunted tombs in Edinburgh. There's so many stories of people having like experiences in there. So we're standing in there, and I can remember I was on one side of the group and my brother and one of my best friends were on the other side. And my brother was only like 16 at the time, right? So he was quite young. And I remember he was holding my friend's hand, right? Because he was so scared. And we're being told about Bloody Mackenzie and about different experiences and stuff. And I started to feel really lightheaded. And I was like, this is weird. I feel really dizzy. I feel like I'm going to throw up. And I was like, oh, this is just weird. And I was like, why does it look like it's getting darker? I was like, is it just me, or is this mausoleum getting darker? And then I looked over at my little brother and he's staring at me with like the widest eyes, and he looked absolutely terrified. And like, I'm automatically like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And he's just shaking his head at me. And I was like, all right, okay, this is weird. A couple of minutes later, someone popped out with a mask, right? Scared the crap out of us all, and then started singing happy birthday to me. It turned out that the guide had actually messaged one of his friends and been like, oh, I've got a girl whose birthday it is. Do you fancy giving her a good scare? Which I thought was kind of sweet, right? And so everybody sang happy birthday to me and everything. And it kind of made us all sort of forget about how creeped out we were feeling. And when we got outside, the tour guide came up to give me a hug, and he was so lovely. And he was like, oh, I hope that made your birthday and everything. And he actually ended up taking us about graveyard, because that's the graveyard that J.K. Rowling stole her character names from, which is really, really creepy. But let's not talk about her. But so we had a wee walk about with him, and we were like, yeah, that it felt really weird in that mausoleum. And I was like, I felt really dizzy, and it felt like things were getting darker, but I don't know if that's just me sort of like imagining it, like I'm expecting it to happen, so I'm feeling it happen kind of thing. And he was like, well, he's like, a lot of people have told me they felt that way in there. And I was like, it's weird. And then Vinny, like my little brother, he pipes up with, he was like, something was grabbing me. And I went, wait, what? I was like, what are you talking about? And him being the wee emo kid that he was wearing fingerless gloves, because it's October as well. And his free hand that he wasn't, like, he was holding hands with my friend, but his free hand was just like hanging down by his side, and there was nobody behind him. There was like maybe like less than a foot between his back and the wall, and he felt something tugging his glove off. And he's like shaking his arm, like, as if, what's that? And then he looks down and he's like, there's nothing there. And he turns around to my friend and he's like looking at her. And that's when he started looking at me, like terrified, because something is grabbing onto him. And then he said he felt like, or he heard something shuffling behind him. And he's like, there's no way there's anything behind me, because there's no space. And he looked and there was like no rats, no mice, no anything like that. But he heard something behind him and he felt his glove being tugged on. And we were like, oh my God, that's so creepy. That's so creepy. So we leave that night, having had an amazing experience, like exactly what you want on a ghost walk. You want to be scared on a ghost hunt. So we leave, come back to Glasgow. Me and my brother split up from my friends. We all go like back to our respective homes. One of my friends said that when she was walking from the train station to where her car was parked, like the wind started kicking up, and she was like, it's weird, like it was cold but it wasn't windy that day. And she looked and she could see that the trees weren't moving. The trees and the bushes weren't moving, but her hair was being whipped by wind. So she just like ran, just made a fucking bolt for her car, gets in the car, goes home, sleeps with the lights on. Afterwards, everything fine. My other friend, she said she didn't have any like experiences. She just like, she had been terrified, but she said that she didn't really have any creepy experiences. Me and Vinny, are completely fine. But then the next day we woke up and I had these huge bruises all over my arm. And I was like, where the hell did these come from? Like, and it was that way where I was like, maybe I fell against something and I can't remember, but these bruises looked like someone had been punching me. And I was like, what the actual hell? My little brother had these like weird like rash like scratch marks all over his thighs, and he was like, what the hell? And because he's got sensitive skin, I was like, oh, maybe mum's changed the soap or something, I don't know. Nothing like that. Took a couple of days for the marks on his thighs to leave, and it took ages for these bruises like to leave. I actually contacted the website that I had booked via, and I was reading like other people's experiences, and other people were saying how they'd woke up the next day covered in bruises, and there was other people like, oh yeah, I woke up with like this really weird rash that looked like scratches, and there was like all these other sort of stories, and I was like, oh my god, did this freaking poltergeist follow us home to beat us up for going into his mausoleum? And yeah, that was quite a scary experience. Fun but scary. And we've not been back. It's been a good 10 years or so since we've been. So I think we're going to try and do it again at some point because it is really good. And if anyone is ever in Edinburgh, especially in October, because there's lots of ghost tours in October. They do run throughout the whole year, I'm pretty sure there's a couple. However, if you're in Edinburgh near October, definitely go for it. Like, the closer you get to Halloween, the even scarier it gets. And it's absolutely amazing. And it also shows you how beautiful Edinburgh is. As a city, lots of walking obviously and lots of hills, but it's just beautiful, and you get taught the history because like Edinburgh is technically built on top of an old, like the old Edinburgh. What a lot of people don't realise is all the sort of old paving, the old walls, bricks and stuff like that, they're like, it's made with bones which a lot of people don't realise. That's basically, they decided, like, because the amount of people that like died there, they just used to repurpose the bones. So Edinburgh is a very creepy city. I would put it up there with Paris in terms of creepiness, like with bones and like stuff like that. I don't know. I remember hearing a bit of catacomb, but I don't know if that was just like spooky rumours. But yeah, I definitely recommend doing that. And I'm sorry, I have rambled on for almost 30 minutes, so please feel free to cut whatever you want out of this. I've been saying for years, I should tell Linz and Chris these spooky things that have happened and whatnot. So yeah, but you two keep being amazing, and I love you both, and yeah, bye.
Oh, thank you so much, Pip. I am making a little love heart with my fingers and thumbs here.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that, Pip. That was a very comprehensive and very spooky story. I don't know. There's been too many spooky stories tonight, Linz. I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep well.
Do you ever, Chris? Do you ever?
No, I have a toddler. So yeah, it's part of the course.
Oh, well, I think that was a great note to end on. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining us around the campfire tonight. It's been awesome.
Thank you.
I really hope we can do a part 2 because this was really fun. And I know there's others who want to send stories in, but they didn't quite have time. Looks like it's time to put out this campfire. Yeah, time to get out of here, I guess. I'll just pack up my stuff. Backpack on. Oh wait, suddenly got signal again. Hang on. Looks like we have some voicemails, actually.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Submitted for the approval of Dystopian Simulation Radio. I call these experiences the hauntings in Old York. It was the year 2000. I had just moved into my first apartment in the historic village of York, Maine, situated on the northeastern coast of the United States. The house, built in 1750, was converted into 2 apartments on the second floor, with a restaurant on the ground floor. My neighbor across the hall was rarely home, so most nights after the restaurant closed, I was in the building by myself. Feelings of uneasiness began the first night. Every time I left a room, I felt vulnerable with my back facing the open room from which I was leaving. My kittens acted strangely. It wasn't typical scurrying around in boundless play. I saw 3 wide-eyed and fluffy kittens sitting in a semicircle, heads cocking side to side and looking up. There was nothing on the ceiling and nothing in the air. One leaned back and reached an outstretched paw up, batting at some unseeable thing, while the other 2 hopped and leapt into the same empty space. It was as if they were playing with an invisible, dangling string. Then the sleep paralysis reigned over the long winter nights. I'd never had sleep paralysis before, didn't even know what it was at the time. My bed was positioned along the wall closest to the street. There were 2 windows facing the street, and the foot of my bed was between the windows. I woke unable to move and saw a shadow figure walk through the kitchen door into the window at the foot of my bed. It looked like a man. He didn't acknowledge me. He leaned slightly so that he could look out the window toward the street. He stared like a gunslinger in an abandoned saloon, waiting for an ambush. I never shook the paralysis. Instead, my eyes got heavy, my breath weak, and I fell back asleep. The second time I saw the shadow man, my bed was positioned opposite the windows along the interior wall. The foot of my bed was against the open kitchen door, which swung into the room. I woke feeling panic and helplessness and watched the same shadow man walk past the foot of my bed. This time, he stopped in the middle of the room. He turned and in the blink of an eye was bedside towering over me, looking down. He bent forward, drawing the void where his face should be to my face, blocking out the room. It was the blackest black I've seen, and as I strained to regain feeling control of my body, the blackness looked more like the cosmos. I don't remember shaking the paralysis and must have fallen back asleep at some point. The third time I woke paralyzed, I had an experience that I still can't tell if it was a dream or not. Not before nor since have I had a dream like this. My bed was once again against the wall with windows, and beyond the foot of my bed, past the second window, was a door closet. I heard a thud against the door. It wasn't a knock, like the sharp tone of a knuckle on wood. It was a broader thud, like the side of a head slowly and rhythmically banging. The banging stopped, and my dread heightened with every silent moment, waiting, straining to hear another sound. That's when I heard her say, "When I get out of here, I'm going to get you." The banging resumed, getting harder, louder, and faster. The voice began to sync with the banging. It was like, bang, when I get, bang, out of here, bang, I'm, bang, going, bang. And then there were 3 more bangs, each emphasizing the final 3 words, to get you. Silence again. I strained my eyes, peering down to the space above my toes, looking at the door, listening. The door opened. The hinges squeaked, covering the seconds it took to open completely. That's when I saw her, peering through the door. She was upside down, looking down at me over the underside of the top of the door frame. She was sitting on the ceiling in the closet. When she knew I saw her, like a hiding child caught, she stood gaily, and that's when I saw that she was no more than 3 feet tall. She looked like a little girl, more a toy doll of a girl, plump and stocky. She lifted her leg, still upside down, and stepped over the top of the door frame and into the room. She walked across the ceiling, looping past the foot of my bed, chanting now, "When I get out of here, I'm going to get you." As a child would reciting a nursery rhyme. She crossed the room ceiling to the door, stepping over the frame, into the space that led into the bathroom, then quickly out again. Her head swiveled, taking the environment, where she came back into the room. She stopped in the middle of the ceiling, looked up, or really down at me, and then fell to the floor with a sickening thud. "Out of sight," she said. "When I get out of here, I'm going to get you." And this time her voice was menacing. I don't know for sure, but I think I passed out. Now, most of these experiences can be explained away. In states like sleep paralysis, people often feel paranoid, presences, and have difficulty differentiating wakefulness from vivid dreaming. But there was one more experience that isn't so easy to write off. When I moved into this apartment, the property behind the house was a simple paved parking area for the 2 residents, workers, and maybe a patron or 2. The property was lined with trees on all sides, and the furthest back property line was marked by a stream. Beyond the stream was a small forested area. One day I came home from work to find the entire forested area was decimated. All the trees had been cut down. I learned the next day that this was the site of the new Town of York Library, which opened the following year in 2001. I felt a heaviness when I saw the jagged tree stumps and felled trunks strewn like garbage. I felt upset about the displacement of the animals who thrived in their homes there. I walked up the stairs and unlocked the door to the hallway between apartments. I heard music. I didn't see my neighbor's car but figured she must be home. I unlocked my apartment's door, and as I pushed the door open into my kitchen, the music got louder. I paused, wondering if I'd made some mistake. Had I been turned around somehow? Was I entering the wrong apartment? It wasn't like anything I'd ever heard, and as I opened the door, half expecting to find someone inside, I discovered that the music was coming from my keyboard. This synthesizer was the sort that had piano keys and a few dozen buttons that would make the keys sound like a harpsichord, violin, or cello. I walked over to the keyboard and saw that the keys weren't moving, like they do in old movies. Another feature of the synthesizer is that you can record tracks on it. There were 6 chambers where you could record 6 different songs. I'd use the keyboard to record parts I was working on, and to my knowledge, you can only record one pass. Like if you record a piano piece, that's it. You can't record a violin over it on the same track. The music, if you can call it that was playing through the keyboard was moody, dark, as if Philip Glass were to write a doom, black metal, and noisecore influenced composition. It was relentless, and I soon noticed that the piece featured more than one layer of instrumentation. I couldn't discern exactly how many different instruments were featured, but that it was definitely several. Standing in front of it for more than 5 minutes, I wasn't sure if it was being performed live, if the song was recorded. So I pressed the stop button. It was quiet. I waited a few minutes and inspected the instrument. Nothing was out of the ordinary. I pressed play, and the same darkened piano piece played as if mid-track. There's no beginning or end. There were no discernible transitions from known song structures. It existed as a wall of layered, depressed sound. As I mentioned, I had some kittens, but the on-off button on the keyboard was set into the frame of the keyboard. Their paws, though adorably small, couldn't turn the keyboard on. And even if they did, it would be almost equally impossible to turn it on and then hit the record button. And the recording wasn't a runoff of a few notes. It was like Michael Nyman's score to Gattaca, where he had to simulate a pianist with 12 fingers instead of 10. I listened for another 5 minutes and then decided to just let it play. I wanted to see how long the song would run. 5 minutes seemed like longer than I'd have expected the space to record, but I figured maybe it would go to 10 minutes. I listened. 10 minutes passed. I decided to change out of my work clothes. It was still playing. I showered. It was still playing. I made dinner, ate dinner, and cleaned up. It was still playing. I let it run for over 3 hours, and there was no sign of the song stopping. So I pushed the stop button and went to bed, admittedly a bit creeped out. The next morning, I pushed play, and it played. Stop, and it stopped. It was inexplicably still there. Being in the year 2000, a decade before I got a smartish phone that could record videos, I never got a sample of it. Months later, I moved, and when moving, the keyboard was unplugged. Unplugging the keyboard, I learned, erased all the recorded tracks. I moved out of state, but 13 years later, found myself living in York, Maine again. The house I moved to was 2 property plots away from the haunted house. I experienced sleep paralysis one last time in my life. I fell asleep after gazing out my bedroom window, watching the trees sway in the wind. I thought about how close I was to that house, and wondered if whatever was there knew I was back. That night, I woke paralyzed and unable to breathe. I fought to regain control of my body, and when I finally thrust myself out of bed, I hit the floor and strained to reach my bedroom door. My brother slept in a room across the hall. As I turned the doorknob, a great pressure was released from my chest, and I choked in a gasping breath.
Wow, that was a fantastically told story and also some great music from Brian Servin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think Brian is an author and a musician, and you can tell from that story. Thanks so much for sharing that with us, and we do hope to hear more from you soon. Maybe you have a podcast of your own. You will have to write in and tell us, and we will all listen. That was a great story. Thank you so much, Brian. And it looks like we have a voice message here, Chris, so let's have a listen.
This story is a story that my brother retold to us, and it was when he was in hospital. Now, the first time he was in hospital on the ward, because he'd just over the age for being a child, so he was in his teens, so that meant he was put into a ward of older men, predominantly elderly men. His bed was the first on the left as he walked in, and he was lying in bed, and he felt someone sit on the bed, naturally thinking, someone had come to visit. He thought it was my dad, and he looked, and there was nobody there. Rolling forwards on to his visits regarding hospital, he had been discharged. Rightly, he shouldn't have been discharged, and he ended back up in hospital. This time it was the same ward, but he was in the top corner on the right-hand side. So he could see the bed where he'd been, and it was also the big exit from the ward. And he said he saw an elderly man walk and go and get into that bed. The only thing was, there was nobody staying in that bed.
Wow. I actually thought we would get more hospital stories, because when I ask people if they've ever seen a ghost, the locations that they usually say they've seen one is either like their bedroom, house, etc., or hospital. So yeah, we finally got in a hospital story. It kind of reminds me of my mum passed away last year. I've got no concept of time since, but she told me a story once when I was younger, and it was about my grandma. And my grandma was in hospital with, I think it was pneumonia, and she passed away. And when we were kids, and she always wore this, I think it was like a powder blue 3/4 length woolen kind of coat, like a formal-ish coat, or it was grey maybe. I don't remember, but after my grandma passed away, my mum was like, oh, can we have a coat? She wanted her things, and this coat had been sitting over the back of a chair next to the hospital bed. And they were like, well, we can't find it and everything. My mum was upset, and they left without it. I don't think they ever found it. So it was just basically missing. And I think this was a couple of days before the funeral. My mum said that she was sitting up in the living room, and it was really early in the morning because she couldn't sleep. And she saw from the bay window in the living room like a sort of shadow. And she went over there and looked out, and she said that she saw my grandma wearing the coat. And she just looked in the house, and then she wasn't there anymore. So yeah, I wish my mum was here to tell that story, but she would have done a better job of it. But I think that's one of the most compelling stories that I've ever heard, because it involves like a real world item, like the coat that was there, and then suddenly it was gone and there's no explanation for it. Of course, somebody could have taken it, or it could have just been misplaced, or I don't know. But that story always stuck with me, and I just wanted to tell that here at the end of this episode.
Hey, this is Michael from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, aka Septembrio. I have a little bit of a fun ghost story for you guys, or potential ghost story. You guys can decide what you think at the end. I don't know what I think, but it's definitely interesting. So it started about 2 years ago. I started a new job at a music shop, and I'm just basically working the shipping receiving dock. So I'm there, 2 hours earlier than everyone else, and so that has resulted in a lot of time where I'm alone and it's dark out still, and start hearing some weird noises. So immediately when I'm in the warehouse, in the morning, I hear footsteps above me. And of course, I'm not thinking much of it at first, because my first thought is that, there's just other people in the next unit over. And of course, I'm not as familiar with the building yet. And so pretty quickly, I realized that there's no other unit in the building. It's just our store. So it wouldn't be another unit. So that kind of gets rid of that idea. Some time passes and I'm still periodically hearing footsteps walking above me. And the way the building is laid out is on the warehouse side where I am, the ceiling kind of goes all the way up to the roof. But on the other side of the warehouse, there's a second story. There's two sets of stairs. One set of stairs goes up to basically the drum section where there's an additional office, and another set of stairs goes up to the break room where there's the kitchen. So the next thing I'm thinking is, sometimes my boss and his wife, who also works there, they're in the office upstairs. Sometimes they come in early. So, when I hear the footsteps, I think, they must be in early today. And there was a few times where I'd hear the footsteps and later find out that they weren't in at all that day. And as time passed, I got to know their schedule and eventually realized that they would only come in early on Fridays. And there was plenty of times when it just wasn't them. So now I'm, as I'm gathering information, I'm starting to really wonder what's going on, hearing those footsteps. And of course, this is over months and months of time. So it's not something that's really on my mind and not something I'm actively investigating. But it's like, as information comes, it gets weirder and weirder. So the next thing I'm thinking is it could be people on the roof. Now, the music store is kind of in the dodgy end of town. And there's some questionable people that hang out in the back alley by the building. And so naturally, I'm thinking they're getting up on the roof and, maybe camping out up there. So there's this maintenance guy that comes once a month, and he grabs the key to the roof, to the ladder that leads to the roof. And I figure I'll ask him, and before he gets there, I'm looking at this ladder that's locked, and it's like, you've probably seen it before, a little kind of tube that goes up that's locked, and so nobody can just climb up the ladder. I'm looking at it like, how the hell are they getting up there? And I'm just so confused. So the maintenance guy comes and, I'm like, you ever see anybody camped up out there? And he's like, I've seen plenty of places that have that problem, but I've actually never seen it on your roof. And I'm like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, I mean, when they camp out, it's pretty obvious. They leave a big mess, and I've never seen anything on your roof to suggest that. So he's like, I'll check for you, but I don't think anybody's up there. So I'm like, okay. So he goes up there, does his thing, comes down. He's like, no, it's completely clean. So there goes that idea. And I'm just, and their footsteps, they're very clearly footsteps. It's not, like mice crawling around. It sounds like, full grown adults, the weight of a grown person walking around, sometimes running. And it's just starting to bother me. It really starts to bother me after this next incident. I'm by myself. And I never eat breakfast at home. I always pack breakfast with me because I can't eat first thing in the morning. It kind of, it just doesn't sit well with me. So I go to work and I go to the kitchen. I go there a bit early before my shift and I start making breakfast there. And that's what I do every day. And so I go up the other set of stairs to the kitchen. And as I'm making my breakfast for the day, clear as day, loud as hell, I hear, all the way up the stairs. And it startles me because I think I'm alone. And then the other thing about those stairs, it's like it's a narrow stairway that turns left into a hallway, a narrow hallway that leads to the kitchen. And it's a pretty short hallway too. And so basically from the stairway, there's nowhere to go but basically the kitchen. So when I hear that, boom, 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 I'm like, oh shit. And I look towards the hallway, expecting to see somebody there and kind of give them shit like, Jesus, man, you scared me. But no one's there. So now I'm thinking that they're just standing at the top of the stairs. So I go down the hallway to give them shit there. Nobody's there. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I go down the stairs and I go all over the store because it was clear. Somebody stomped all the way up the stairs, like ran up the stairs, and now no one's there. I go all over the store. The rest of the store doors are locked. Nobody else came in. Nobody's there. So now I'm like, what's going on? And I start, all this has been kind of just like my own experience. Haven't talked to anybody about it, but that made me start telling people and wanting to figure out, what am I hearing? So, I tell the stories, and of course I'm, making jokes like, I think we got a ghost, right? And it turns out that everybody else knows about the ghost but me. And they start telling me their stories. Some of these guys have been in that store for decades. It used to be a different music store before even, so it goes pretty far back. And one guy, he worked for that store, so he's like 20 plus years in. Everybody's sharing different stories, kind of similar things, seeing things kind of like move on their own or get knocked over. One guy tells me he sees about an incident where there's security footage, and my manager verified it too because they both saw it. There's a video that they saw in the warehouse where there's a drum kit stacked up, and it's like the bass drum is at the bottom, and then it's the toms and it goes to the smallest. So big as the smallest, pretty sturdy stack. We do it all the time. It's not going to fall over. It's pyramid shaped, right? They say on the video, they not only see the stack fall over, but like get knocked over, like somebody hit it, like just smacked it. Except nobody's there. They both saw it on the video. So now we're just like, everybody's talking about the ghost suddenly, and we're excited, and we're just swapping stories. And so it's kind of like the topic of conversation for the next couple days. Well, during that period of time, during the excitement, there was a glass wall within the store. Like there's the doors that are the entrance to the store, and then it's kind of like a foyer, and then a glass wall that separates it. That glass wall just shattered for no reason. Nobody was near it. Nobody hit it. It just shattered on its own. And, logically, your first thought is, it's maybe the cold did it or whatever, because it was in the winter, but it wasn't the outside wall, and it wasn't that cold of a day when it happened. So nobody knows why it shattered. It just did. So that was kind of the biggest incident that happened, and who knows? I mean, I'm kind of, obviously I'm a big fan of the paranormal, and I'm interested in that stuff. And I'm a general believer, but I also almost feel like if I just accept it's a ghost, it's kind of a cop-out. Like, I'm not really finding out what's going on, and I'll still hear the footsteps and random noises when I'm by myself. Although now I start a later shift, so it happened more the earlier I started, when I started like an hour earlier. So it doesn't happen as much anymore, but I don't know, I'm torn. So that's my music store ghost story.
Hey, thank you so much, Septembrio. Everyone who listens to DSR knows Septembrio by now. But yeah, That's actually unlocked a lot of memories about people who have told me about workplace ghosts. All kinds of workplace ghosts. So I had a friend, and apparently when they were working in a bakery, they would smell like fresh bread being made even though they just opened. And the lights would go on and off in the friggin' ovens. It's like, that's scary actually. But yeah, that ghost was a early riser. I didn't even plan that. Anyways, thank you so much, Mikey, for telling us your story. And that's the last one, actually. So save the best for last. But yeah. Chris, thank you for joining us, surprising us on this episode. Are we expecting you back?
I'm going to leave you in suspense, maybe.
No, don't do that.
Maybe.
I cannot answer any more questions.
Maybe.
Maybe?
Maybe.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Bye.